fencing team is opening up its 2025 to 26 seasons this weekend at the Coach Nikki Franks Classics in Philadelphia. It is their first major contest against nationally ranked opponents ahead of the NCAA qualifying season. Nearly 100 West Village residents and community activists gathered in front of the Tony Dapolito Recreation Center, calling for the building to be rebuilt rather than demolished. Running for a 6K or 10K race is not easy. But under NYU head coach Tyler Deck-Ship's lead, the NYU women's cross-country team won the national championship. And I am going to show you how exactly they get there. The first objective is community goals, right?
Yeah.
When is the first time that you make like the change toward that like performance goal?
Yeah, I think something that's really hard to live by, that I still have to like fight the battle, is to like not be seduced into having those performance goals, because that's something that we're not actually that control of.
Processing over 1 million bottles each month, Sure We Can is a nonprofit redemption center in Brooklyn dedicated to serving canners. While New York has many redemption centers, Sure We Can is the only nonprofit dedicated to serving canners.
Sure We Can's mission is to serve canners, the people who collect and redeem the bottles and cans that other people throw away, through economic empowerment, social inclusion, and environmental awareness. Sure We Can is the first and remains the only nonprofit redemption center in New York State. As far as we're aware, there are only 2 community-sensitive redemption centers in all of the United States.
Sure We Can provides a safe space for canners to redeem bottles and cans through New York's Bottle Bill, which promotes recycling by charging a 5-cent deposit on containers like water, soda, and beer.
The canners or the consumers then bring the bottles and cans here to Sure We Can or any other redemption center, where our staff will verify the count of the bottles and cans and provide the canner with cash. Once the material is counted and sorted, it is staged here on our site, where it's kept in advance of pickup by beverage distributors, who in New York have the legal onus to collect the material.
Founded by canners themselves, Sure We Can is more than a recycling center. As a nonprofit, it creates community and support for people too often marginalized by society.
No hay otro lugar como este. Aquí hemos criado como un tipo como de familia entre todos. Eso es lo que es Sure We Can. Una segunda casa para todos los recicladores que venimos aquí.
Recycling here becomes more than a transaction. It restores dignity, purpose, and belonging for vulnerable New Yorkers.
When we're talking about marginalized or vulnerable people who aren't considered like participants, workers, who have the same kind of effort or value to offer to their community that more conventional workers do. And so that flipping that narrative is a big aim of our organization.
To reach more canners and ease the physical burden of the work, Sure We Can recently opened its first satellite site in East New York.
We think it's incumbent on us to expand our reach into new neighborhoods, partially because the work itself of canning is very difficult, especially if you're doing it on foot, if you've got a cart to push full of glass bottles. To go a few miles under those conditions is very, very hard on the body.
Sure We Can transforms recycling into a network of support where vulnerable individuals find purpose and community through sustainability. Emily Luo, NYU Journalism, New York.
This competition takes place in my neighborhood, Chinatown, Colorado.
As a pastry, it's basically a flaky puff pastry on the outside, and then the inside is a sweet custard filling. We make our custard a bit more runny than it's in Portugal. Flakiness test is like either you hear crunch for around 4 or 5 seconds when you touch it, or you don't sell it. Thank you.
Opened on January 10th, Nada is a pastry shop serving pastel de nata, a traditional Portuguese custard tart. But for its founder, Manuel Portugal, the shop is more than a bakery. It's a reflection of home.
Lisbon is very yellow. Not only is the trams in Lisbon, the houses very like contrast between yellow and white. So the recreation was a little bit that, like, let's create a little bit of a bright golden oasis in the gray New York block.
Manuel moved from Lisbon to New York 4 years ago to study at New York University.
I studied at NYU, Mathematics and Economics, graduated December 2024, and since then I've been doing this project Nata.
On paper, Manuel's future once seemed clear, at least to his friends and family.
Yeah, nowadays I think it's, super supportive. It wasn't always like that at all. There were moments where, for my parents that are from Lisbon, me coming here in the beginning was already, like a big step. And me coming here, doing 4 years of uni to then start a bakery for them was like a very, big transition. I'm, after all, a math major, so the more traditional route would be somewhere in finance or consulting. So going to baking wasn't really, an expectation that most of my friends had.
Determined to take the idea seriously, Manuel went back to Portugal to study the crafts and learn what it takes to make nata at a high level.
We would start at 6 a.m., bake until like 12, around noon. Afternoons are always more like a soft, more tranquil moment of reflection. It's more about talking, adjusting the levels, understanding what's the next day.
At the start, bringing a Portuguese pastry to an American kitchen came with unexpected problems.
American flour has a lot of starch. In Portugal, the flour is weaker, so what happens is the natas were coming out super doughy, very cookie. Basically, I iterated this cycle for 2 more months, testing 10 to 15 flours until I got one that actually integrated well with our butter.
That same attention to detail still shapes how Manuel runs nata today. Coffee manager Ines Thompson says Manuel expects perfection.
He's very, very, very meticulous about the dough, about the custard, about everything that goes into it. So every bite's going to be perfect all the time.
And see if they're flaky enough. For example, this one is on the borderline. This one I'm not going to sell. This is what we call a soggy bottom. We're not selling this.
He threw away like 200 one day. And then seeing that, and then also seeing the customers literally coming in and being like, wow, this is the best thing ever, I have a really good feeling about this year.
Just weeks into opening, Manuel is focused on growing and sustaining the business.
But we're still not selling what we want to be selling. Right now, we're selling 350 natas a day. The idea would be in the next 2-3 months to be selling 500 a day. And by the end of the year, being approaching the 1,000 a day.
It's better. This is my first one ever. Really? Fire. See, that's why you can't have more than one.
When Nata opened on January 10th, Manuel's parents were standing beside him in the store, a moment that marked how far the idea and their support had come. For Manuel, nata is more than a business. It's a proof that a student's background and memories can become the foundation of something shared. This is Emily Luo reporting for NYU Journalism.